I have been wanting to do this project for years. And you may all be thinking that I wanted to do this project just because I got engaged, but I bought this dress before I got engaged because let me give you some backstory. I have had this very specific dream for a while of finding a vintage wedding dress at the thrift store for like an absolute bargain and turning it into something incredibly magical and special. And then one random Saturday in February in Pennsylvania, on half off day at Community Aid, it happened. So, a little context, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and whenever I go visit my family, if I have extra time, we try to pop into any like thrift stores, antique stores. You know the vibes if you've been on this channel before. So we're walking around. It's half off day. The store's already very picked over, right? And we've already done our loop. We're just doing like one last peruse before we head to the checkout. And if you ever go antiquing or thrifting with Aaron, he will inevitably wander away on some type of side quest and come back with the most wonderful, absolute, beautiful gem you've ever seen in your life. He has the best luck in the stores. But he so happened to catch a glimpse of this dress in the like formal dress section and was like, "Oh my god, babe, they have a wedding dress. Haven't you always wanted one of these?" And we've seen them before, but they're usually like at like Salvation Army, they want like $200 for these things. And that was not the vision. So, and not every dress works, right? Not every dress can be altered and things. Not only was this within a reasonable size range, but it was $20. And since it was half off day, I paid $10 for it. The dress, it's stunning. We'll get into some of the details of it, but it also was within a reasonable size range. And I was just like, the stars are aligning. This is close enough. We need to just get it and we will make it work. So, after basically no thought, I purchased the dress and it came back to DC with me for the start of the best sewing project I've ever done in my life. So, this is the original dress in all her glory. Long sleeves with the poofy edge, the torso proportions were off, the sleeves were obviously attached, and it did not actually fit me. It was too small. So, I loved the train though. I saw the vision, and I got some motivation to keep losing weight through this because I needed this to zip. Now, the first thing I needed to do was remove this bow because I really needed to see how the mechanics of this dress worked. It had a bustle, which, if you don't know what a bustle is, it's basically like a way to hold the train up on a really long trained dress, and it was behind this bow. So, my goal was to get this off, see where the bustle was at, see how much train I had, and go from there. But here you really start to get the first little taste of the details of this dress. It has a lot of these flower lace inlays. It's actually see-through in most of those parts, and then this is the train. When I tell you it's so long, I had to lay this across basically my entire kitchen in order to get you this shot. It's beautiful, it's really interesting and how it connects and disconnects, and I knew exactly how we were going to separate it. I just didn't know how this extra fabric was going to work, especially with all these little beads and details. So let's finally get into it. We're making progress with the dress today, and the first thing I wanted to look at was I flipped it inside out and I was looking at the tag here, and the tag tells us that it is actually polyester and nylon. So this is going in the bathtub because this means now I can wash it with OxyClean, which is exactly what we're gonna do. Now, I know you may be thinking right now, Clark, I literally just saw that tag and it said dry clean only. that is just a state of mind, okay? If you know what material you're working with, you just have to be careful. And that's the goal here, is we're trying to be extra sensitive. So what I did was fill the bathtub up with warm water, some laundry detergent, and some OxyClean. So we're just creating like bathtub, old-timey bathtub washing machine, you know? The goal with this is to just get all the dirt and grime off of this. We don't know where this has been. We don't know if it's got bad juju. We don't know why this ended up in the thrift store, but you know what? There ain't much some good old Gain and OxyClean can't fix. And we're just gonna take our time, slowly. And after about 10 minutes, this is what she looked like. You see that water is gray. Yeah, and I just used a Swiffer duster to move it around gently, if you end up doing this yourself. So after we get all of the gunk kind of loosened off of this, we do still need to rinse it, and we need to do this incredibly gently. So I was just checking on things to make sure we weren't losing beads, we weren't losing buttons, really important details of this, and then I pulled it up and rinsed it off with the shower head on to really make sure that we got all the soap off of it. Then I picked it up to try and get it in the best situation to be picked up, not to pull on the fabric too much, to make sure sequins wasn't getting caught on lace, and I tried to wring out a good amount of water by just holding it up to make sure that the water was going down the drain at this point. And really, it's just to get the bulk of the water off, because inevitably you can't squeeze this fabric too much, so you're gonna have to pull it out pretty wet, and we're going to hand wring it with towels. Now, because of the length of this dress, this turned into me creating the longest towel line I could possibly create through my bathroom and into the kitchen. So this is 3 beach towels lined up straight down. I just laid the dress out on it as best I could and spread it out, because the only way to really wring this is to roll it up. So just being gentle while also remembering we have so much water still left in this. So this turns into some form of a dress burrito, if you will, and I'm just rolling this up as tightly as I possibly can, and when I hit a new towel, I just tuck that into the existing roll like that and just keep going all the way, like this never-ending thing here. And this is my child. I just ended up standing on it to try to get some of the water out, but that was her. Hello, my people. It's the next day. I let the dress air dry after I squeezed all the water out of it on a drying rack overnight, and I want to show it to you. Tell me why she is more beautiful, gorgeous than she ever was before. Like, I don't know if this is just like one of those placebo effects, but I feel like it's so much more white. Like, it is so white. I lost nary a bead in the bathtub when I was cleaning it. I didn't see any at the bottom, and I checked, and look at the front. Now this is where we have the most yellowing, and a lot of this yellowing is caused by these plastic sequins just from age. Like, plastic does not age well if you've ever paid attention to climate change. The yellowing up here we can work with. All of this that we want to change into a different dress, oh mama, she's looking gorgina. Oh, I'm obsessed. And now it smells good, doesn't smell like an attic anymore. So I think today we might get some scissors out and cut some things. Am I ready for that mentally? I don't know, but we have it here. Okay, here's the idea. So we need to get the top together first. And basically, we want to continue this line as seamlessly as possible, but it needs to drop about this low. So once I get the sleeves off, that won't be a problem, but this line needs to be like continued in through here. And so we need to do that on both sides, because then once the top is off, right, it's going to be strapless. So this part is going to go under the arm, and then we have this kind of seamless line to follow here across this. So we really just need to get this situation sorted out. I think, especially because I'm going to turn these sleeves into gloves, we realistically can just chop that. It's really not going to be that big of a deal. It's just scary. Cutting things is scary because you can't go back. But this part is like the most, we want to get that off as soon as possible. And so I think I'm going to mark this out as best I can with my pencil and start making some chops. I think it's time. I think it's time. After I initially cut the sleeves off, they still had that kind of poofy shoulder to them, so I cut that off second because that felt lower risk doing that afterwards, and then I could look at them on my body with the clean matching sides, and they were still a bit big. They needed just some final touches so that way they wouldn't have that gap at the top so they would stay up, but I was so happy with this already. I was already seeing the vision. I honestly think this part was the scariest part because this was not only going to determine the initial length of the mini dress, but it was going to determine how much leftover fabric I had to create a second dress, which was the plan. The plan was to use the leftover long train to create a second all new dress. And I was trying to figure out exactly how to mark this and also keep almost like a mini train on the back. So connecting this with using all the fabric, it was a process. I'm not going to get into all the details of how I did it because am I a professional seamstress? No, I am Clark and I do things just with whimsy and some type of gusto, I guess. But then I started cutting and we had a mini dress. Not only was this when we finally had the right length, but I finally got it to zip up too, which was so nice. I mean, I had solutions for if I wasn't going to fit into this dress, but it was so gratifying to actually just be able to zip it like a normal human being. And I loved how it turned out with the little train on the back as a little nod to the original dress. While I was cutting the dress, I also discovered that there is a pocket right here on the side. And it's an intentional pocket, except it kind of lays the wrong way. I saw the little circle here in the lining. I don't know why it's here. It directionally wants to lay backwards, and there is not one on this side. I double, triple checked, so I think it's fun and I'm keeping it. So, this is where the dress was left. The top is unfinished in most parts. The back has buttons and some loose thread from where we removed the bow and where the bustle was meant to go. Some details just need to be tacked down, and the bottom of the dress needs to be hemmed. So it's still kind of raw here. But my goal is to cover up most of this by just putting the bow back on. So, really, what I needed to focus on was finishing the top and actually hemming this to the correct length. Now for the top, because some of this lace is finished and some of it is not, and because of how delicate it is, I chose to hand sew the entire top with an invisible stitch so that way I could gently press these over and you wouldn't see it, and create a more seamless look without having to put too much extra stress on this lace at the top. I put the dress back on to make sure that it was going to lay correctly on me, and I pinned all of that down. Then I did an invisible stitch by catching just the lining on the inside and sewing all of that edge to just the lining. And you might be thinking, wow, that's going to take a long time. Yeah, this was it sped up on 20x speed for just 1/4 of the back of this dress. And it was so worth it because it's so seamless and flawless, but let me tell you, this was a labor of love. I was going to remove some of the embellishment that I ended up tacking over. I didn't because this dress is too big in the bust. Now I know I could take it in on the sides to fix that, but it's structurally a little bit different, and I knew I could do an alternative of just using this to help fill out that small gap. So I actually left the beads because it adds about 1/4 of an inch maybe of room in there that I don't have to fill out by either getting a push-up bra or just kind of leaning the correct way when I'm wearing the dress. If you've never sewed before, I would say about 70% of sewing is actually just ironing, because when you iron things before you sew them, your life is going to be so much easier, and also your garments are going to look way more professional. So now it was time to hem the dress, which hemming things and finishing the edges is the bane of my existence, and I hate doing it because it's always so tedious, it's always the last step, and you want it done so bad, and it's so time consuming, and this hem was something new to me, so of course I made it more difficult for myself. This is what is called a blind hem, and I got a new foot for my sewing machine in order to do this, and of course I tested it before I did it on this dress, but I was still learning how to do this, so I ended up actually changing my mind halfway through this, but let me just give you the basic rundown of what you end up doing to create this hem. You can do it with a raw edge. I didn't want to because I wanted this dress to look really polished and finished. If you don't even know what a raw edge is, don't even worry about it. So I started with like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch little edge just pressed down so that the raw edge would get caught when I flipped it. Then I folded that over again and made sure that that was 1 inch. So this is where I measure the uniformity, and I just use one of my like flexible tape measurers to keep track of this with the one around my neck. Once that's pressed, you then flip it back over and you let like a little tiny edge of that hang out, and then you put a pin in the thick side. And let me tell you, doing this, just this part of the dress, took me over 2 hours. It has so much fabric. This was so time consuming. It was so confusing. I didn't know what to do with the lace part, but we got her done, and let me show you what it looks like in the machine. This is Barb, my Singer tradition that I've had since 2020. This is my 3rd sewing machine I think I've had in my life, and I love her dearly. I just got her oil, so I'm taking real good care of her now. And I'm using this special foot that mine is clear so that way I can see really well, and I'm just using the correct stitch and sewing this straight with the sewing machine. This also took a long time, and I just wanted to go really slow and be precise, and that worked perfect for this. After it's sewed, this is what it looks like when you flip it back over. You'll just see these really tiny stitches, and as you pull on it and stretch that thread out, it will look like one kind of continuous piece of fabric, which is really nice. So I laid this out so that way I could try to figure out what to do with this lace portion here, and I decided to just hand stitch it because I needed this curve to be a little bit more seamless, and I just needed to see it laid out. So I ironed where I wanted it to lay, and then I just brought over a needle and thread and I tacked this in a couple different spots just through the lace on the back side, so that way I would know that it would just stay together, it wouldn't get too bulky, and it would lay nice no matter what I did in this dress. At this point, it was really just finishing touches. I had one of the buttons fall off in the process, which honestly, only having one button fall off was a huge win. I did have a ton of sequins fall off through this process, and I tried to save pretty much all of it. And anywhere that I thought looked bare, I tacked on a couple of beads, but there was hardly anywhere that it looked super noticeable. I also sewed some little circles things onto the back of the bow so that way they could just tack onto these existing buttons, but I noticed that this lace on the right hand side was not laying flat to the actual bow itself, so I tacked that down so that way if the bow was off, that way it would still lay nice and clean. All in all, I probably have about 10 hours of work in on this dress, not including washing and drying it, but that was just sort of part of the process. And truly, every time I put so much effort into a sewing project, I always feel like the payoff was absolutely worth it because the vision I had in my head of what this dress could be as soon as I saw it in the thrift store is exactly what this turned out to be. And this is the dress. Gloves, mini dress, accessorized to perfection. I'm really proud of this one. Like, genuinely, this project has been in my head for years, and seeing it become something real, something I can actually wear during this phase of my life is really good feeling. Now, I know you might be thinking, what happened to the train? What is that going to be? Well, don't worry. Next week, I'll be showing you the full process of that train becoming a modern, brand new dress to go as a counterpart to this one. If this is the first time you've stumbled upon my channel, hi, I'm Clarissa, but you can call me Clark. This is Clark's Tables, and while we are primarily a food channel, we do stray away to this sewing table sometimes because I also love to express my creativity through this. And I hope you stick around. Like and subscribe if you want to see how the rest of this turns out, and drop a comment. I want to know, would you ever thrift a wedding dress? Is this a reception dress? Where should we wear this next? Let me know below, and hopefully I will see you at the table again soon. Bye!